Hello class, we're going to continue with our next video on page 70, no, sorry, on page 80. Okay, we're going to work on page 80. The topic is grammar number 1. Let's see, page 80. And in this grammar number 1, we're going to see adverbs of frequency. Adverb of frequency, yes. The idea is to talk about how often, qué tan seguido, okay? How often do you some activities? For example, Mr. Lucero speaks English, okay? Yeah, but it's different to say Mr. Lucero always speaks English. Always in each class he speaks English a lot. Or for example, Mr. Lucero hardly ever speaks French. I speak French, but I hardly ever. No, es raro. No? Or sometimes, Mr. Lucero sometimes speaks Spanish in class. So, the idea is to tell the class how often, que tan seguido, how often do you do some activities. Because you can say, I play soccer, I eat sopa seca, I cook ceviche, but okay, that is good. But now we're going to use adverb of frequency. Look at the sentences in the chart. Then complete the rules with before or after. Look at the chart. Here is 0% and here says 100%. So, what does 100% means? In this case, always, siempre, and never, nunca. Okay, so focus on this. Listen and repeat first. Always, usually, often. Some teachers say often. Well, it depends. Sometimes, hardly ever, never. Okay, so always is 100%. Imagine that usually is 90%. Often 70%. Hardly ever, sorry, sometimes 50%. Hardly ever 20%. And never 0. For example, Mr. Lucero always speaks English. He usually speaks Spanish or often speaks Spanish. Teacher Alan hardly ever speaks French, and teacher Alan never speaks Portuguese, for example. No, that is the idea. Let's see. Adverb of frequency normally go the main verb. When I talk about the main verb, I'm talking about, for example, play, plays, writes, goes, gets, and does. In the second one says they go, the verb be. In this case is the verb be. The adverb of frequency normally go, remember, before or after. Before the main verb or after the main verb. Antes o después del verbo. Before. So, in letter A, adverb of frequency normally go before the main verb. Okay? And in letter B, they go after the verb be. After, después, no, after the verb be. Focus on that. Okay? Miren eso, because could be that you have mistakes because you don't pay attention to these rules. Okay? Let's continue. Number 2. Rewrite the sentence with the adverb of frequency in parentheses. So, in this part, you have a sentence like when Mr. Lucero says, okay, tell me a sentence. Okay, Annie gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Perfect. Now, use always. So in this case, you use between the noun, between Amy and the verb. Perfect. Amy always gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Remember, I told you between the name and the verb is for this one. Okay, letter A. Be careful. In yellow. Let's continue. Amy paints picture in her house. Usually. It's the same one, okay? It's in yellow. Yeah. Amy usually paints picture in her house. Easy. Only add the information here. She paints in a special art room at school. Sometimes. She sometimes paints in a special room at school. She goes to extra art classes after school with a professional artist. She often goes to extra art class after school with a professional artist. She misses her extra art lesson. She never misses her extra art lesson. So, in this case, it's being easy because only follow this rule. No, this rule. The adverb frequency normally go before the main verb, but it's possible to use in this way. Okay, it's possible. For example, here says, look at the sentences below. Here, what question word can you use with often to ask about frequency? Here, how often does she play the piano? Or do you usually take a shower in the morning? For example, in number 3 says, look at the sentences below. What question word can you use with often? How? Okay, how is here. How often? Always. How often? Or maybe you can use usually, no? Do you usually take a shower in the morning? In the case of Mr. Lucero, he always uses how often. Okay? In my case, but those could be a possibility. Now, let's see. Order the words to make questions. So, could be how often or do you usually? But depends, because it could be he or she, does he or does she usually, okay? Perfect. You try how often at school are. Are the verb to be. Be careful because because they go after the verb be. Después, okay. How often are you try? Sorry, how often are you tired at school? No, and in your answer, remember this rule, okay? In your answer. Usually. Do you usually? Do you usually get up at 6 a.m.? There is a difference here. For example, when I say how often do you do an activity, you need to answer me with a sentence like this. I'm going to answer, how often are you tired at school? I can say, I am usually tired, or I am always tired, or I am never tired. In the case of, do you usually get up at 6 a.m.? The answer is like this. Yes, I do. No, I don't. Remember, meet how often your friends do. How often do you meet your friends? How often Does, in this case, the example is does, no? But here is do. How often do you, the verb, meet and the complement your friends? For example, in this case, it's not possible, it's impossible to say yes I do or no I don't. In the answer is I meet my, I need a preposition, sorry, an adverb of frequency. I always meet my friends, or I never meet my friends, or I hardly ever. So you decide which adverb of frequency is the correct for you. Okay, because these answers are going to be answered by you. C. You, how often do tidy your room? How often do you tidy your room? Yeah. So those questions are going to be answered in class. So be in an oral way. So your microphone need to be ready for the answer. Now here's a working person ask and answer the questions in activity 4. Okay, this is going to be made by the microphone, not the chat. Word order questions. No? For example, in the case of B, what is your name? Okay, look at the chart and fill the blanks. Well, let's see. Subject, your name, Peter. B. What is your name? Question word. How often do you listen to music? How often do you do music? Okay, do you write music? Do you sing some music? It depends, no? In this case, listen to. For example, in the first one says, do you listen to music every day? So in this case, remember, yes I do, no I don't. In the second one, how often do you listen to music? And in that case, you use the adverb frequency. Okay? Here we have the rule, and we're going to do this in class. Okay? So class, thank you very much for watching my videos. Get ready for the class and we'll do it faster so you have time to ask any questions. See you. Thank you.